Welcome to the Beverly Hills Plastic Surgery Podcast. I am here today on a very, very lovely Wednesday afternoon to record this podcast with my co-host, Dr. Millicent Ravello. How are you doing?
I am doing very well, thank you.
I want to just point out today that lunch came and there is a spelling of your name by our favorite local food joint that I would have never actually thought of.
Yes, shout out to Ronnie's Diner in Beverly Hills. They deliver us to all the time.
They're amazing.
They are great.
And they have created a new name for you, which I am going to stick with for the rest of the podcast.
Okay.
It is Mellicente.
Mellicente.
Mellesente. And I think it's missing an accent aigu at the end of that.
Mellicente.
Yeah, so I think that we're going to go with that one today.
I like that. It just kind of rolls off the tongue.
So Dr. Mellicente Ravello, welcome. And we are going to discuss today what makes a good rhinoplasty.
Yes. So this is a critical topic to talk about, but it's kind of an amorphous one because the idea of what is good, well, that's very subjective.
It is. Beauty is definitely in the eye of the beholder, and that beholder being the patient, who it's most important that they are happy.
Most important that the patient is happy, but then you also have to understand that the doctor has his or her own aesthetic, and so what makes him or her happy is included in that as well.
Right. However, doctor happiness, much less important than patient happiness. It's not even close.
Agreed. But you're going to get the kind of result that makes the doctor happy.
If you can,
generally.
That's the best. Patient happy, doctor happy, winning combination.
Yes.
So the reason that I bring this up is because I have a lot of patients lately who've been, and after our last episode on social media, they ask questions like, well, I see this nose on so-and-so's profile that they did. How come it doesn't look good to me? Like, I don't like it. And I tell them that's because that's not your style. You're just not into that.
That's not your aesthetic.
Right. And that's what's hard to understand because, these doctors have huge reputations and they are well known and they're very good at what they do, but it doesn't mean you're going to like the results.
Right. So you don't have to necessarily be able to critique the results as a plastic surgeon would, but you do have to be able to look at a nose or a style of nose and identify it as something you like or don't like.
Right. Because you're choosing like the nose you're going to live with.
That's the nose you're going to get.
It's going to be on your face. Don't go because he's got a fancy pants office and a great looking staff and a huge reputation and he hangs out with celebrities. Go because you love the work. You gotta love the artwork. This is such an artistic specialty that you have to understand this.
Right. And that's not to say that every single patient's going to have the exact same looking nose, because that's not necessarily the case.
No.
It's a custom built nose for each patient that fits their face. But on a whole, you have to look at the whole spectrum of that doctor's work and decide that you like or don't like their general, work that they do.
Right, because it's their style.
It's their style. It's their calling card.
I always say, if you like Monet, you wouldn't get Dali to do a mural in your house.
No.
You would get Monet because you like Monet. You may like Dali fine, but Dali is very different than Monet when it comes to artwork.
Very much so.
I just think you got to go with the artist that you think is best for you.
Well, that brings us to the next question, which is, what do you think in your own personal aesthetic makes for a good rhinoplasty?
Well, of course, this is a topic that's difficult to kind of chunk everybody into this is a good rhinoplasty because with different ethnicities, there are different results that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
So, and I remember somebody asked me when I was in Europe, they go, well, do you do ethnic rhinoplasty? I was like, dude, I'm in Southern California. Like that is rhinoplasty in Southern California.
That's what we do.
We have patients with every cultural background. We have patients with from all over the world fly into Los Angeles to get rhinoplasty done here because we know how to custom tailor it for their ethnic background and what they're looking for. And, there's so much that goes into that question. that the answer really is, for me, the best rhinoplasty is the one that the patient loves, but
Yes.
B, it's one that doesn't look like they had a rhinoplasty. I am not, if you want to look like you had a nose job, I'm not your guy.
Not your guy.
I'm not. I don't do that. These little pixie noses that look like, literally like Disney characters. I don't do that. I think that just looks weird. And maybe it might look good on a very young person.
A Disney princess?
Yeah, maybe. But like when you're 38, there's going to be a problem. Like the wheels will come off at some point and you'll be like, this isn't a natural looking nose, is it? Because it's not. So I try to make the nose that you should have been born with, that fits your face, that has all the features that you're looking for, that is aesthetically beautiful. For most patients, that means that there's going to be some tip projection, whether they're Asian, African American, Caucasian, Hispanic. Tip projection is really key. It's what I think is missing from many noses that show up in the office for primary rhinoplasty. They don't like it when it's flat against their face. No matter what the ethnicity is, they don't like it drooping. They don't like it diving. They don't like, a nose that's too wide and spreads out over their face. Again, these are generalizations that I find, though, in all ethnic groups that bring them in for rhinoplasty.
Right. I think there are some pretty broad generalizations that can be made when talking about what most people consider to be a good looking nose. And in general, it's a nose that is not too wide. So it's, that's going to vary from ethnicity to ethnicity. But it needs to sort of fit your ethnicity and your face. So not too wide. Ideally, a straight line from the radix, which is right between your eyes, down to the tip, with maybe a little bit of a scoop. And that's going to be your patient preference, surgeon preference with how much of a scoop. But ideally, there's no humps or anything like that that's distracting from that view from the side, from the profile view.
Right, for female
rhinoplasties. Yeah. And then some kind of refined tip. And that's usually what I find patients come in requesting, and they can't always put it into words, but they will point at the tip of their nose and say, I just don't like this. And usually they're referencing the fact that the tip is amorphous or it just doesn't have any definition to it. And generally you need to make that a little bit smaller with a little bit more definition. And then, like you mentioned with the projection, something that's supported, a tip that can stay up in space, that's supported, that's not drooping downward.
Yeah, the drooping tip makes people look older. That's why they don't like it.
Makes them look older and harsher, almost kind of that angry look that, you're not angry, you're not a bad person, but it kind of gives that look occasionally to people.
Some of them are bad people.
Some of them, yeah.
I mean,
in general, most of our patients are very lovely.
That's right. In general.
Except those who aren't.
Except those that aren't. You know who you are. But the drooping tip is what makes people look older. There was a movie called The Hours with Nicole Kidman, who I think Nicole, is a great looking woman.
Beautiful.
But the way they made her look old and not attractive, they put one thing on her. They gave her a drooping tip nose with a hump. And it turned her into somebody that wasn't attractive. It's really interesting to look at that film. And if you're at home right now listening to this, Google it up. Nicole Kidman in The Hours, and look at what they did to the nose. And it is like, it really changes her.
It transforms it. But that's because that is what happens with the natural aging process. As we get older, the tip does droop. It does lose its support. So that is what sort of defines an older looking person. Not defines them, but that is part of an aging face, is a drooping tip.
For sure. And we want to avoid that at all costs.
Yes, that's not our goal.
We're not here to make people look with drooping tips and look older. So we want to change those things for you and create a beautiful nose. Now, if you bring in photos, and this is always key, for the patients to find a nose that they're like, oh my God, I just love this.
Yes.
Because then you can discuss the aspects of that nose, and it doesn't even have to look like the patient. If they can, and the best place to find the best looking noses are on my website, because if you use those, it's also the place that I want you to look for the ones you don't like.
Yeah.
Because if you can say, look, you did both of these rhinoplasties. I love this one. It's amazing. But this one, I really don't like this. Then it tells me because those patients asked for that nose. They're on my website for a reason. They're not there because I think they're great or I think they're bad. I think that they are a successful rhinoplasty. And so they're on my website or on my Instagram. So by choosing the ones that show I like this, and also I don't like this, then the discussion and the contrast of what you're really looking for is easy to get at. It's very easy to get at.
Right. Because as the surgeon, you can look at that nose and say, oh, that's because I did this in that nose, or I didn't do this in that nose. And you can sort of understand and break down the components of what makes it good or bad to the patient and make it much easier for them to get the nose they want.
Absolutely. And we were looking at your patient today together.
Yeah.
And like her nose looks great.
She looks amazing.
That has transformed her look.
Yeah.
It's not subtle, and I'm pretty sure she gets that. But the reality of that nose is that she still has to heal. So it's like, it's great, and like, you like it now, there's a lot more coming.
Just wait.
Yeah, because I mean, it really is a great result. Yeah. But that's the thing, is that these noses change over time. So what I think we'll do today is I have 2 cases for you to look at.
Okay.
And I guess on the podcast viewing audience, they won't be able to see it, but if they go to the YouTube channel, they can check it out there. Our YouTube channel is isn't it Beverly Hills Plastic Surgery Podcast or BH Plastic Surgery Podcast?
Beverly Hills Plastic Surgery Podcast.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go, on YouTube. But I'm going to show you these cases and you'll describe them. I'll tell you what they are. You can describe them for the audience so you can hear it. And then we'll talk about what we did and how we got them there. So first up, this is a primary rhinoplasty patient who came in when she was 16 years old, and she did not like her nose because she just felt like it took away from her looks. And why don't you tell the audience what you see?
So we are looking at a young girl, and on her front view, her front-on view, you can see that the nose is wide, and it's wide sort of from the top all the way down to the bottom. The bridge of the nose is a little bit deviated to one side. There's a little bit of a C curve to the top of the nose. And then you get down to the tip and you can just see that it's wide. It has that bulbous, wide look that patients come in saying they don't like.
It's amorphous.
It's amorphous. That's the term for it. Yeah, you don't see any definition,
like
anything coming through. And then you look at her on her profile or her lateral view, and there's a small hump that you can see right up towards the top there. But what's really most prominent about it is that the tip is drooping. I mean, she's a young girl, but the tip is drooping down, and it's a little bit long for her face.
Right. So not a good nose. You could see why she came in.
Yes.
And there you can see on the base view how boxy and wide the
Very
tip
boxy.
is. And then also on the 3/4 view, it's just, it's
basically, it's almost
nose.
the same width from top to bottom. It's like a square.
So if you were doing the rhinoplasty, you would take down the hump, elevate the tip, get
Define
some
the
tip
tip.
definition, all the things that you said,
Yeah.
right? And lo and behold, that's what we did. And there she is.
And she looks amazing.
She looks like a different person.
A totally different person. I mean, like we just said with that last patient, transformed her look. She is a beautiful girl. I mean, she was a beautiful girl before.
Let's put it into the camera there. You can kind of see it there, I think. I don't know. You see it there? What do you think? Can you see that? Yeah, it is definitely a transformation of epic levels. And you can see not only on the front, it makes her cute.
She's super cute.
Right?
She's adorable.
But before, it's like it's really detracting from her looks.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a total transformation.
Yeah, she looks amazing.
Yeah, and she is very clear about that too. When she talks about it, she's just like, "Oh my God, like it just changed the game."
And it does. I mean, you can see it on this photo here. The pre-op, young girl, but she does have sort of a angrier or an unhappy look to her face because of that nose, the way it sort of just it brings it down a little bit. But then on the post-op, she's wide-eyed, she's fresh, she just looks great.
Right, but all those things you said, none of them are true, because if you look at her facial expression, it's exactly
the same.
That's right.
It's literally the same.
There's nothing different with her eyes.
I know.
So none of that. She didn't change. Her expression's exactly the same.
It's exactly
right?
the same. Yeah.
It's dramatic. Here, I'll pop that up for the camera also, because I think that's really a key point. If you look at that, it is just, there is no difference in her facial expression. There's nothing she's doing to look any better or worse other than she's had her nose operated.
Right.
Pretty crazy. So, okay, that to me is a good nose job. This, by the way, in my book,
that is a home run. That is a good nose job.
You know, it is, but it's fine. This is like, to me, what I'm expecting to do every time. I don't know if it's a home run, but I think it did the job for sure. Is it an A-level rhinoplasty? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an A. Is there anything that I would do differently next time? Let me look.
Now you're just getting nitpicky.
I am. I'm going to nitpick.
No one's worried about it.
Don't
do it. No.
No, it looks fine. So yeah, it's an A.
Audience, it looks amazing.
All right, good.
Next.
All right, fine. So here's somebody that didn't have a lot of luck with the rhinoplasty surgeons in another part of town. I'm not going to say where. But I'm not happy with this rhinoplasty for her. In fact, she had 3. So she comes to me after 3 rhinoplasties with this. And you can tell me what you think with that.
First of all, I'm looking at a beautiful girl. But this nose has taken a hit. I mean, perhaps literally.
Right?
So looking at her...
No, she's never had trauma, but she has had the trauma of 3 bad nose jobs as far as I could tell.
So looking at her front on, you know, the width is pretty good, but when you get down to the tip of the nose, it is skewed to the side. It has a tiny, tiny little ball on the tip of the nose. It's the reverse of an amorphous tip. It's too skinny.
It's too skinny.
Too skinny. And then you look at her from the lateral view, and it's like she has like a little Q-tip at the end of her nose. It's just sticking up in space as a point.
And it's too far out there.
And that is way too projected.
It's so over projected. It's hard to even understand how it got there.
And it's asymmetric. I mean, you can see that on the worm's view when you're looking right up the nose. The side on her, I guess that's her left side, is just scooped in, and nope, it's just not good.
So when I see this nose, I know how this happened. This is a division technique where they've cut through the lateral crura, which are the cartilages that support the nostrils, and the medial crura, the part that's left over in the middle, has actually bent up and grown out, and so literally it should be called Pinocchio deformity, because it literally grows over time. And I don't think she's telling any lies, but it's definitely from cutting that cartilage. And I get patients like this, even to this day, all the time. Like, I don't know who does that lateral crura cutting anymore. I don't. But I have several patients like this in the last 2 years.
Huh. All right.
So obviously for this one, we need cartilage because she's had 3 previous operations, and she's had, so she needs rib graft, the whole shoot and match. And we have to bend those cartilages back down, stabilize them, and reconstruct the tip. You know, it's over projected tip. It's overall, the nose is still too big. And so we've reduced it. We made it look nice. You can see from the front here that we've gotten her tip into
much better.
It's much more normal looking,
better.
right? This is like 6 months after surgery, so she still has a long way to go. As we talked about on our other revision rhinoplasty podcast, it's a 1 to 2 year healing process for the swelling, but already she's happy. And you can see here too, like the shape is better. We've deprojected the tip. I'll show these to the camera here in a second. You can see the lateral looks much more reasonable.
Right. Yeah, you've taken down that over-projected tip. It's no longer sticking up in space. She has a nice smooth line from radix to tip. She corrected that tip deformity and asymmetry. It's such a softer, much, much better looking nose for her.
Yeah, I'll show you this. For the camera, we'll turn this around really quick. You can see there. Yeah, but that to me is a good revision rhinoplasty. Now her result, just to kind of show those first few photos here, you can kind of see what we were talking about. When you look at the tip, you can see how over projected it is and how much there's there's no support laterally. It's just a disaster. So anyway, I think that's a good little starter kit for how to choose a rhinoplasty, how to figure out who's doing it,
right?
Where you want to go.
Yes, look at their befores and afters. Be able to sort of identify what you like or what you don't like, even if you can't nail down the specifics, at least be able to have an idea of what kind of nose you like or don't like, and then go in and tell your surgeon.
Yeah, and it is very important. I mean, you want to find ethnically consistent patients. Like I had a guy who was 74 years old who brought in pictures of Meghan Markle. And I don't know.
I mean, she has a really cute nose.
She does. But this guy's in his 70s. And he's handing me.
It's never too late to get your Meghan Markle nose
so
on.
I went, and he has rhinophyma.
Oh, jeez.
And he had rhinophymas when they have those like scraggly old noses with like the thick skin, like they just look like W.C. Fields or all these guys who had rhinophyma. They're just awful. And here I am talking to this guy. I'm like, I'm not sure you're going to look like Meghan Markle. She does have a cute nose.
Yes.
I don't know how it goes on a 70-year-old man, but I'm down. I tried to hit it anyway for him. I think it went pretty well. Any other questions that we should be asking each other or that we need to go over with this?
No, I think that's pretty good. I think that's what you...
That's a lot.
It's what you need to really be critically thinking of when you go in and be able to just, tell your surgeon what you like and what you don't like.
Bringing photos is
helpful. The
helpful.
photos is super, super helpful. The worst thing you can hear is having someone say, I don't know. I just don't like my nose. Just make it better. I don't like it.
Yeah, I can't work with that.
Yeah, I need something a little more specific. Now, it's great, when you say they come in and say, hey, doc, I trust that you're going to make it look great. You just do your thing. I like your photos. I like your work. You do you. But you have to give us a little bit of direction about what you don't like about your nose.
Yeah, I mean, my happiest patients, I have to say, are the patients that come in and say, I don't like this hump. I don't like this tip. I want it to look great. I like your noses. Do your worst.
Yes.
They are my happiest patients because then I'm going to do what I do and it's going to work for them. It's still going to be their nose. I customize every single nose as a custom job. I don't have, a 4-move rhinoplasty, which is why so many people back in the 70s and 80s looked alike, why they had got a diamond nose or whatever was the one around New York. Because they did the same moves on everybody. And it didn't matter what nose they brought. I custom tailor everything. It's such a labor of love for me. I'm totally into it. Well, I think that's good.
I think that's a good way to end it, with your labor of love.
Yeah, it's not even like labor.
It's just fun.
It's just totally fun.
It's just totally fun.
I love doing rhinoplasty.
Can you believe we get paid to do this?
If somebody walked
fun.
through that door right now and said hey, you want to go get dinner or I got a rhinoplasty for you to do, I know what I'd choose. I'd be like,
every time.
Let's go to the OR.
Yep.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Well, cool. Well, then on that note, this is the Beverly Hills Plastic Surgery Podcast coming to you from the 90210.